Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching. We just have one today. It is just me out here. We are going to do a full recap of St. Louis City SC's 3-3 draw with the LA Galaxy that just happened last night on March 16th. Justin is going to be on the pod form of this, so make sure if you're tuning into the pod that you can catch him there and some of his takes. We'll get his heart and soul player of the match for our partner Soul Juice that he'll have a take on. So make sure to go tune into this on podcast form as well. But we've got quite a show for you all today. We are going to miss our fiery and spicy, co-host extraordinaire Justin here, but I'm going to do my best to give you all the breakdown from last night. So I encourage you all, help me out. Throw me some questions, throw me some comments, throw me some spicy takes, and we will definitely get those featured here and have some debate. So everyone, last night, wow. Let's just jump ahead to the very end here. 3-3. Talk about that score line, that result for this team. I'm happy overall. You feel like you see the results and how the game flow ends up going, and there's situations I feel like we definitely should have lost. We definitely should have lost by a lot. There's situations where I feel like a draw is very, very favorable. Draws where I feel like a draw is very fair. And there are situations where I also think we could have come away with 3 points there. Definitely could have had a win, potentially. So almost everything was on the table at some form or fashion last night. But overall, I think looking at this from just as best and non-biased perspective as I could take, this is a good result for the team to be away from home, playing against the Galaxy, who I think upon last ranking, if you look at the power rankings across the league, are clocking in at number 6, haven't lost yet this season, especially now playing them away. This is a good result for this team. So I want to encourage you all to take that with you, at least as something, as we get into this breakdown, because I think if we'd have walked into this fixture and said, you guys are going to get a point out of this, I would have bitten your hand off and said, thank you, please. Like, I would love to have that point. So all that to say, again, we're going to get into the ups and downs, the flow of the game last night. A lot of it, we're getting an early comment here from Curtis around Berkey. I mean, Berkey was the thread for us last night. We would be looking at far different numbers and a far different result had that exact goalkeeper, Roman Berkey, our captain, not been in net. It's different. And I'm not even saying you put, a normal goalkeeper in there. I'm saying you even take one step down off of goalkeeper of the year, and we're losing this game by multiple goals last night. There's no other way to say it. He was every bit a game changer last night for us that we need him to be, and that he was all of last season, and that we'll need him to be this season as well if we are to be as successful as we want to be. So spoiling a little bit of our heart and soul man of the match last night, but we'll get into the Berkey of it all. So starting with the starting 11. Curious to hear what you all thought about this. We had some of the changes right, I think, heading into it from the preview show, but we lined up with the same 4, but we lost Parker in the warm-up the day prior. Apparently, he has some back issue surface, which scares the daylights out of me. I don't know back issues personally. My wife has them. My family has them. You've seen them in sports. It's not good. Back issues fester and they impact so many different activities just in your daily life. I can't imagine playing a sport professionally and having a back problem. So I'm hoping that this is just some sort of spasm or a pull of some sort. But either way, it's a bummer to go into this game and have no idea. And all of a sudden we see Josh Yarrow starting in place of Tim Parker. I was worried. Definitely. I think we saw Yarrow get overrun a little bit earlier on in the season when we were missing Parker and Nilsson for that matter as well. And to have them both lead the line here, going into this game without your vice captain, one of your big leaders in the back line against a very high output attacking offense, I was a little worried. And then we had Totland, of course, on the right. In the midfield, we had Celio maintaining his place. Obviously, had an incredible run of form so far in the MLS. Ostrak making the jump in, which we did predict. I'd say mostly a straight 1-for-1 swap, leaving Leuven since he has his own issues with injury right now, and he was ruled out for the match. Blum was ruled questionable, but I did not think we were ever going to see Blum in this because he just didn't look available. He was ruled out by MLS's website, but we heard from local reporters here that it was actually just questionable. And then we had Indy on the right. And then we lined up with AZ and Klaus. So curious for everyone's thoughts on the Sam Adeniran conversation. I've heard some thoughts around, is it really necessarily fair or a good meritocracy to keep him on the bench, considering how much of a threat he's been for us all season, besides maybe that last game that we just played. I totally get those takes, but I also am a very big Klaus stan, and I wanted someone that could hold on to the ball and connect play when we did get those chances. I think ideally I would have liked to see them together, but not in the way we've been playing them together. More of like a Sam out wide potentially, where he can also chip in on defense if we need someone to get back, win headers on set piece goals. We'll get to that as well here. But when we did see Sam come on, I think it's exactly why you want him on the bench to start with, is he offers so much as an alternative, especially to tiring legs on defense. He made the exact impact I think you were asking him to make. But let's not talk about Sam too much yet. AZ and Klaus, I think we called for AZ. We dropped to the bench in this last game, but Justin wanted him to stay. He did stay. I think he had an okay match. You still feel like you want a little bit more out of his finishing, out of the power behind his shots, his connective tissue with his teammates. But overall, I think it was okay. And Klaus, got to get this man on the board. He had some big, big chances last night. And we're getting a comment here from Brad. Brad saying Klaus just doesn't seem to have the magic that he used to. I understand that take entirely. The magic last year for me was that he was an XG monster. I'm using this phrase from Pete Wood, who does an awesome podcast for Arsenal. If anyone's Arsenal fans out here, the Arsenal Opinion podcast. But XG monster, what does that mean? That just means that those small, really, really small XG chances, those chances that he gets that are, maybe not served on a platter for him to put away, he made the most of last year. And this year, we're seeing that not happen. He's not putting those away right now, yet. And I think some of them are also big chances as well that you just need your number 9 to put away. So that's just an overall kind of review of the 11 so far. We'll get into the ratings. I'm kind of already jumping ahead here, but let's kind of get into the first half. So the first half for me, we started again a little bit slow, I would say. And when I'm kind of going into that, conceding in the opening 5, much less the 3rd minute of the game when you're on the road, is shooting yourself in the foot and making you have to play from behind, obviously from the get-go, when you already kind of feel like you were because you're away from home. You can't let that happen. If anything, come out a little bit, not defensively, but come out poised and play with this attitude that you're not going to let anything easy in right away and give that team any sort of leverage because they already have enough. They're a good team, and you're already going to play them at home. You can't let that happen. So last night we concede in the 3rd minute. Yarrow tries to step in for Totland, who's kind of beat, and both get stuck on this attacker. I think it's Fagundes at the time. Fagundes has an underlapping runner with Aude, I believe it was, their left back, and he flicks it between both of our defenders to Aude, who runs in free. And it was a lovely pass, by the way. And Aude carries the ball up, squares it up for Joveljic, who we talked about on the pre-show. He's been electric so far this season with goals. And for the most part, last night, yeah, he had some great opportunities, but I think we prevented a couple of those via Berkey. He's able to put that one away after Mark Hannick, I believe, who was guarding him, had gone down. I didn't see what the contact was, but he was free in the box, entirely free, receives the ball, turns his hips, opens them up, and goes far post. Nothing Berkey can do about it, but an absolute thorn in our side for most of the game and an awful way to start if you're St. Louis City. So I was really bummed to see that early concession from the team. I'm sure Carnell was not happy either. After all the pregame, all the video analysis, all the prep, to concede that early on away from home, you just can't let that happen. You got to have cooler heads there. You've got to be able to get that out and have the poise to just keep this game even, especially on the initial launch the Galaxy are making at us. Later on, just a couple minutes, I kind of have a low high highlight here in the 9th when Nilsson was pulled out wide, and Painstill, who was a pain in our what last night, all night, was able to run free into the channels, and he crossed in for Joveljic. Berkey, huge save. And by the way, for you all, as I'm doing these highlights, I'm going to be a little bit less on the Berkey until we get to our kind of man of the match, our heart and soul of the team last night, because I'm going to spend some time on it, and Justin will too in the podcast. So Berkey makes a big save in the 9th, keeps us in this game, keeps it, a 1-goal deficit. 13th minute. Oh my God. Do you all remember that? The double ping off the crossbar. Uh, Ricky Pooch, who I do think we kept off the scoreboard last night, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of goals and assists. He rung the crossbar. Rebound fell to Joveljic. And I do want to give my kudos to Yarrow in this situation because Joveljic is first man of the ball. He's sitting under it, waiting for it to come down and head into an open net for the most part, just a couple of feet from the goal line. And Yarrow is recovering, gets back, does enough physically to just kind of put him off, I think, just enough to have Joveljic just totally blow it and head that one over and hit the crossbar again. So we were very fortunate there, but I do think that was a little bit of good defending there from Yarrow in terms of recovery. 27th minute, we get on the board. So I think that the first 15 minutes for me, just looking at last night, maybe first even 20, it was pretty nervy from the team. We just looked like we were going to concede and we would be down 2-3-0 in the opening 20 minutes of the first half, which is for the most part game set match when you're playing away from home. So I was glad to see us get out of that first 20 and just survive. There were some other big blocks and big situations for us I didn't get too much into. And we also had a couple, semi half chances, I would say. But we get our goal in the 27th minute via Tomas Ostrak. I'm a big Ostrak fan. I think that he's just has this word potential, and everyone wants to talk about potential, and they're young and they can still develop. But Ostrak's getting to an age and to a point in his career, I feel like the chance that we've given him is we need him to start showing it and showing it more consistently. So to have him capitalize on an awful giveaway from Ricky Pooch, it was a good example of what I see as press triggers that I'm sure Carnell drills into his players' heads when you see a negative or a back pass from LA in a dangerous position, two guys that are super close on the field, and you spring forward and try to close that gap and give that guy little to no time to make any sort of decision besides maybe just chop it long. And in this case, it was Pooch on the receiving end of that pass, had nowhere to go. Oshak was all over him, kind of does a couple pings off of their own bodies. Ostrak comes away with it, dribbles it poised towards the goal, and slots it past the LA goalkeeper for a nice finish. And I think a good bit of confidence for him if he's going to build something this season. Great way to start for Tomas Ostrak. So I love that he's making the most of his opportunity there. 29th minute, Indy, I thought had some decent moments last night, especially in the first half. He had an in-swung, just whipped ball in for Klaus, who looking for that kind of skip off the forehead into the far post, and it just went a little bit too much and went over the crossbar, but a great chance for Klaus, and you're just wanting him to get that goal, that little notch on his belt to take his season off the mark and to finally start getting goals back into his game because we need it. And the 32nd minute, the last specific thing I'll go into in this first half was Painstill. Again, just a thorn in Marcanic's side all night. Curtis, great comment here. Painstill made our folks look like they were standing still. I legitimately was watching it back again today, and there were moments, and maybe it was tired legs, maybe it was I just not going to catch up to this guy, where we did just look defeated. We just looked like we can't catch up with him. No one can run with him. And I will say he's got blistering pace. So hats off to him and a great bit of skill as well. But he should have had 3 goals last night. There is no doubt in my mind that he should have put the nail in our coffin way earlier on in the game. So in the 32nd, he rung the post after a through ball. And Marcanic, I'm looking for you, man. Where are you? They're just nowhere near, not tight enough, not communicating with your center backs to help cover for you. It was a tough first half for Marcanic, and for the most part, don't think he was able to cope with the demands. And again, Painstill is a good winger, probably one of the best that we're going to see this season in the MLS, especially with his experience coming over from Europe and playing for Genk. So, there's definitely a level. There's a difference in terms of their skill level, and it was exposed last night. I did think that Dewar came in and did a much better job, but I also think that maybe that's partially because Painstill is getting tired as well. But that was the first half for me. Second half, you open up and you concede again early on in the opening 6 minutes this time. So LA Galaxy score their goal in the 51st. We had a chance of some decent buildup and we coughed it up. Indy, I think it was, lost the ball. Marcanic kind of gets caught on a long ball turning his hips, trying to adjust with his balls and to go enough to where he's not able to start sprinting when he should. And guess who? Painstill is in behind, just absolutely carries the ball for 20, 30 yards. And oh man, it's tough to watch because you just feel bad for him at some point because Payne still just had the best of him, and he slots it in for a far post finish past Berkey. Berkey loved his game last night. I think he might tell you that he should have had that second one. And I am looking at it very critically. Don't get me wrong. I know that had some good pace behind it, some good accuracy. It was a good finish. But when you get a decent hand on it, like you saw Berkey, I think he might tell you that that's something that he could have had and should have had. 54th minute, Roman Berkey. 58th minute, Roman Berkey. We've got a reflex save followed up by an amazing kick save. The reflex save, he has no right to make it all. It was point blank on Joveljic after a squared ball, and he just throws his arm up and just claws that one away. Incredible. We'll talk about that more in the heart and soul of the match for us. And again, another great kick save in the 58th minute. Just things that are keeping us within spitting distance of the Galaxy, which is all we needed last night to remain dangerous. 59th minute, got some great combination between Totland and Klaus. Would love to see that continue as Totland continues to venture more and more forward for us. Klaus has his shot deflected out for a corner off a decent save. But again, Klaus, this is a great opportunity. You've got to take the chance for us. You've got to have it. If we can't get that consistently from him, then you do have to look back at Duran and say, well, that we're trying to play this guy. We're trying to get him going, and it's just not happening. And Adeniran's got to be saying, what do I need to do to be a starter consistently for this team? And I think Klaus is starting to lose runway on that last season vibe that he gave us. And eventually he's going to have to prove himself this season as well to maintain that position. Subs came on in the 60th. Nice to see Sam in for Ostrak, Dewar in for Marcanic. Again, Dewar, I think, did a much better job containing Payne still for most of the rest of the game, but obviously he was still a threat and behind. We were able to capitalize right away when those two get on the field. And courtesy of Sam Adeniran, not a goal this time, but a great assist as he is lingering on the far post, does enough to beat his man, rise up to the ball, and in an expert bit of play from Sam, he's able to, instead of knowing that he's not going to be able to punish this as a goal or put it in the net with enough pace, he heads it back across to Nielsen, who knows nothing about this until he looks up and sees this ball coming his direction. And he kind of just flicks a foot up at it and ends up kind of on like a half bicycle kick and just nestles this one at the far post. If you all haven't seen it, I encourage you to check it out. The guy that's marking the near post where the corner kick was taken, just looks at it, the Galaxy player, as it's going by him, and just knows that there's nothing that he can do to prevent that. It was absolutely incredible. And I love to see it from Nilsson. Another great notch in his confidence, I'm sure, as well as we're getting into this season. I think he's really picking up steam for us, probably missing his partner in Parker a little bit more yesterday. 73rd minute, another big Roman Berkey diving save on a set piece opportunity that this team generated. I'll say it again. Way too many set pieces we're giving up in dangerous areas in and around our 18. I would say even 10 yards past our 18. So in the kind of the 30-yard range, those are dangerous spots to give up stupid fouls, trying to make really tough or harsh challenges. I really want this team to be more composed in defending those spaces. If you've got an opportunity, yeah, absolutely. Feel free, put a foot in. But it felt last night like we were forcing it a little bit too much. And when you're forcing it, you're giving a team like the Galaxy, who are known to be proficient on set pieces, chances. And we ended up paying for that in the 90+5. But I'll get to that in a second here. So Roman Berkey made a great save in the 73rd on a set piece header by Caceres. In the 88th minute, we get the go-ahead goal. And I'm thinking likely the winner here. Corner kick, it was great service from Celio Pompeu. As we have then Hebert now in the game, which is great to see Kyle. Great to see Kyle for the first time this season. And I think he had some decent minutes as well. Nilsson, Sam, everyone's getting up there and challenging. And I do think Hebert got a little bit of, some shtick with the goalkeeper and made some contact, but I think he's totally challenging for the ball in a very fair position. I do think we might have something to say if we're on the flip side of that, because there's definitely some contact, but I do not think, especially when it's not called on the field, that makes it a clear and obvious error when you look at that in VAR. But I do think it was a fair, awesome job by Kyle to challenge for the ball and put off the LA goalkeeper enough to have him punch it in the back of his own net. You don't see that often, folks. That was very fun to watch. And we get the go-ahead. Another set-piece goal for us. Justin talked about it in the preview. Set-piece goals. Big key for us. We had 2. So fantastic from the boys, but set-piece defending. 90 plus 5. There were 8 minutes of stoppage time. No idea where that 8 minutes came from. I'm and the thing is too, we know that the professional refereeing organization is in the background, in the ears sets of these replacement referees, kind of dictating how this game should be called. The fact that they advocated for 8 minutes or at least defended it, no idea again where that came from. I love that they're calling or tacking on more of that time recently because it is more true to how much time is being wasted in the matches. But this wasn't consistent last night. I didn't really get where that came from, and I obviously it ended up hurting us because the 90 plus 5, again, free kicks given away in and around our 18, bad defending, and we end up giving up a free kick goal on a good header from Yoshida. Not sure we could have done too much defensively on this, but again, we need to be better on set pieces. One, from preventing them in the first place, and two is you've got to be hungrier than the other team, especially when you're hanging on to a lead in the 90 plus 5. You've got to be first head to that. You've got to be there. And a guy like Yoshida, he's a veteran. He knows where to be. It's a great service in over the wall, and he's able to head it past Berkey. No chance he can do anything. The last moment of the game that I have here to cover with you all is the red card. So Galaxy make a very professional challenge via Caceres in the 90 plus 9 minute at Sam Adeniran. Does a great job bringing the ball down on a clearance and kicks it by his man in true Sam fashion and gets brought down violently. Holy cow, that was quite a red, but it was a smart play. And they're gonna take that every single day of the week is just to escape that game with a point rather than have Sam Adeniran one-on-one with the goalkeeper. It's just not worth it for them. So I get it, but man, that was a physical challenge. I'm sure Caceres will have no love lost when he arrives back at City Park for the home leg here this season. Overall performances from the team last night. Berkey, I think, was exceptional. I don't think he could have done much, if anything, maybe for the second goal. So I'm going to go ahead and give him an A minus for last night because I had that lingering thought in my head, and I think he was the same thing. I really do. And backline, I think Nilsson was an excellent performer last night. I think Totland maybe shortly behind him. I wasn't overly impressed with Josh Sharrow last night. He just looked a little bit behind it at times and making a lot of those recovery runs behind his own wingbacks. And I like him covering for them. But again, I'm not convinced that he can be a regular 90 minutes in, 90 minutes out starter yet for this team. And Nilsson, I think, is looking like that, and especially him getting the goal. So Nilsson gets an A for me. Rest of the back line, I'm probably going to go in the low B territory. Marcanic probably in the C territory. Unfortunately, just a tough game for him. Celio and Indy last night, if I'm looking at the wide midfield, didn't have an overly big amount of impact. I would say, Celio, I think on the hockey assist for that corner kick goal, fine. Nothing to write home about on those performances. So I'm going to give him probably a flat B, low B there. But I think Ostrak and Durkin again, he's not going to blow you out of the water with what he's able to do for this team, but so much of it goes unnoticed. He works his absolute tail off to make up ground, to challenge, and to press, to win balls back, to spring forward. I love the work rate and the effort that he brings to this team. And Ostrak last night, I think, had a good 60 minutes put in. Obviously gets the goal, gets the reward. You can tell that Carnell wants him to succeed as well. So I think we'll be seeing more of him, especially in Leuven's absence. Can you imagine getting both spun up? Klaus in so many good positions last night. Should have scored a couple of goals, at least one. I do want to see him play more as the 9 when we find ourselves attacking, and less about the running out wide, less about the dropping deep. Go to the near post, man. You're a big dude. Go challenge the goalie. Go get your hands dirty on corner kicks or in crosses. Go up and win that ball. And there was moments of it last night, but also moments of I don't want him in those wide positions. I don't want him dropping into our midfield looking for the ball. We have guys that can do that. I love how he connects play, but I want him to stay out there. I want him to stay as a 9. So I thought it was a good game from him overall, but he's got to show up on the score sheet. So I'm going to give him a low B. AZ, I'll probably keep in the same range. An incisive pass or a couple of them, honestly, last night that helped us tremendously. And I can't imagine this game looking back on it without him. So I think that he probably maintains his position heading into next weekend. But again, you want to see more final product with him. You want to see that the goal output, especially, he finds himself in dangerous positions. And I feel like every shot just kind of dribbles right to the goalkeeper from him, which is something I'm sure he's working on in training. So let's get to the stats of this game. XG, looking at it, LA had 2.53 to our 2.14. Not shocking there. They had some great A1 opportunities, and fortunately, they missed 2 of them. Of their 5 big chances they created, 2 are 3, and we missed 1 of them. Possession-wise, it was about a two-thirds to a third. We had a third, they had two-thirds. Again, a stark contrast to last week. They had over double the amount of passes that we had. And looking at the game from us, we had some great, terms of shots. We actually outshot the team. They had more shots on target. We had more block shots, which you saw a couple of tremendous blocks last night. And I'm looking at a couple of our unique sort of stats from a resource that I use for some analytics. And I look at a stat like field tilt, and I really think this for me explains exactly what happened in this game. Field tilt, again, is just possession, the attacking third for your team. LA had theirs at 49.5% to our 50.5%. So, yes, they possessed the ball for 66% of the game, but they only possessed the ball in dangerous areas that really mattered for just under half, and we possess it in just over half. So, what are you doing with that possession? That's what field tilt tells me, and it was basically dead even last night looking at that. Touches in the opposition box are another thing to look at in those types of stats. We had 40 to their 32 last night. So, I think we were very much in this game, very, very much in this game, which makes me happy heading into the rest of the season around who else are we capable of taking points off of and playing with? We show we can play, toe to toe with the Galaxy last night. And I don't think they had their best stuff last night. Don't get me wrong, but I do think we gave them hell for the most part. So I was actually excited to take that away from the match as well. So heart and soul of the team. Justin will get into his right now if you're listening to the podcast, but I'll tell you mine, and it's going to be the same. Roman Berkey. Justin's telling us that this was one of his big standout performances. It's just reminiscent of all of last year. 6 saves from the keep last night. I mean, what more do you want from your reigning goalkeeper of the year? He was on it from the start to finish last night. So I absolutely loved what I saw from him. It was just nothing short of incredible, and I cannot wait to see that for the rest of the season. Frankly, it's going to be a really fun time watching him just grow into this. People talk about what if he was in front of a really good defense, or sorry, behind a really good defense. I don't think we get to see this very often. It's you almost like you need a little bit of a shaky defense. You can't have this rock back there. And I want us to get much better. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that he's able to put it on display every weekend, I don't want that personally as a fan. My heart cannot take that. But I think there's a part of him that enjoys being challenged every weekend and playing the part that he gets to play in this team, because we cannot do it without him. So Roman Berkey is my heart and soul of the team last night. Soul Juice, just a reminder, you can go to your Deerbergs, your Schnucks, your Sam's, wherever you want to go get your groceries most of the way here in St. Louis, or online. You can get Soul Juice for 20% off using code BALLWATCHING. So that was my heart and soul of the team last night. I know Justin watched, some of this game and spent some time for St. Patty's Day. I'm wearing my green today for everyone watching on video form. Happy St. Patty's Day to all at the pitch. And guys, they had green frozen Irish coffees. I mean, we advocate enough for the frozen Irish coffees, and now they're green on St. Patty's Day. What do you talk? I mean, that is just cool stuff and very festive. I love that from the pitch, and I cannot wait to be back there next weekend for the match against DC United and back home at City Park. But the pitch is our official destination to be, so make sure you head out there pre-game, post-game, anytime you want for any sports watching. It is a heck of a place. How did we do? I think Justin and I kind of pulled out the crystal ball this past week on the preview. I will kick myself a little bit. I predicted a 2-1 loss, so I will eat my words happily there. And Justin predicted a 2-2 draw, so he was just barely off with a 3-3 draw being the final result. We both actually ended up cashing our bets. I predicted both teams to score plus the over 2.5, so I did a little parlay there at minus 137. That cashed, obviously. And then he bet the over 3, which cashed also very, very confidently. So we had some good bets, some good green one last night. Very happy about that. And that's what we have for you all. I'll scroll back here to see if any questions. But before we get too deep into this, I want to say a big shout out to our presenting sponsor and the Hoffman Brothers this year for all of 2024. Guys, it's spring. Make the call now. Spring is here. I know we're going to have a couple days of 40s and whatever, and maybe some potential freezing temperatures, but that's St. Louis, and Hoffman Brothers is the St. Louis expert. So make sure you give him a call. Schedule your checkup, schedule your tune-ups for all your systems under the roof here at 314-664-3011. Hoffman Brothers, HOFFMANN Brothers.com. Finally, guys, questions, anything that you all want us to cover here. I'm trying to look for anything that we haven't already covered. I think the debate that still rages on for me is a good question and or just comment here from Curtis around Sam and Klaus. I think Sam and Klaus should play together. AZ has been shaky lately. Would love to see more of Alm out there. I say yes to it, absolutely the Alm piece. I want to see Alm, and I think they're getting him more minutes and more match fitness. And I could see him maybe not next week, but the next week after that, definitely getting a full 90. So I think Alm will feature very soon out there, and he could play that not false nine, but that 10 floating with the nine that we're kind of playing a 4-4-2 right now. I could see him lining up next to Klaus. I could see him lining up next to a Dinnerant and playing that position. He has, I know, as of last year. So I'm really excited for that. I still am not convinced by Sam and Klaus. I want to see a different formation. I don't like 4-4-2 where Klaus kind of drops deep and Sam just runs wild. It's not working. It's not working yet. And I'm not saying I'm not writing it off, but I do want to see that tried much more, or at least worked on in practice before we see too much more of it in game time here. But I mean, that's really something that they're going to have to keep working at because you got to get your best 11 out there into your starting 11, and until you get that, it's just going to be time. And I think we just got to keep taking reps. And unfortunately, right now, I think you just got to keep rotating them, to be totally honest. So that's my thought on that. Other questions we have around refereeing. You guys all love the refereeing podcast we did with George Gansner with Sinbin. Absolutely go check that out if you haven't. We'll definitely try to have him on as much as we can, as much as his schedule permits, because the refereeing is not good. If you're watching this, it is just not good, but it's what you expect. These people are not at the top of their game. They're not the ones that are being flown, state to state, country to country, having all these credentials and all this experience under their belt at high levels, taking crowd pressure, player pressure. This is not that job for them. So I think we got to take this all with a grain of salt. You're not going to get the best referee performances last night. There were like 6 red cards just in yesterday's match day. That's too many. That's too many. No one wants to see that. Those should be much more of an enigma and much more rare than they were last night. So I think that's something that we'll just need to keep an eye on, and we'll definitely keep you all tuned in with George Gansner. Finally, again, I got a good comment here from Sean on Instagram around what he wanted us to talk about for the recap. I love it. I love it, Sean. The synopsis here is Galaxy on the road without number 10 and 26, Leuven and Parker. 3 goals scored for us. None of them from our 2 strikers, Klaus or Big Sam, but we still come away with a point. Got to admit, I'd be pretty pleased after watching that game. So I think overall, you look at this game, it's a good road point. I think, yes, we were in winning position. You don't want to concede late, but they also could have deserved much more from that game as well. So I think you got to take your points and escape where you can. So I'm looking forward to the return fixture when we feature them back here at home in St. Louis. But for now, we're returning home against DC United, welcoming back Jared Stroud, who had a banger of a golazo on the weekend. Make sure you check that out if you haven't. It was against Inter Miami as well. So a high-profile match for him to score a big goal like that. And so I was happy to see Stroud. Hopefully he's not doing that at City Park come next week, but we'll welcome him back. And Bartlett, who's been getting some game time as well with DC United. So looking forward to a great match this week, but we'll have that full preview out for you all midweek on Wednesday. And we're going to get into it, man. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to come back home to City Park after a moderately successful away trip, still undefeated this season. I think we have a chance to keep that going against DC United. So full steam ahead on the season, man. I'm proud of this team and the resilience to come back from down twice. You do want to see them have that experience to get it over the edge and to take away the 3 points and to be just ruthless with a team like this who is wasteful. So I think that's something we can continue to work on, and we will find. So I'm optimistic, and I hope you all have a great rest of your Sunday, your weekend, and the rest of your week. If you're listening to us on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you're bumping it, we're excited to be in your ears, and we're excited to be with you all for this season. It's been fun so far, and I'm sure it'll continue to be. So in the meantime, all for City, everyone have a great week, and we'll talk to you